Hey, this is Michael J. with This Old Car. Here's something that most people don't realize. The Chevrolet Caprice, well, it didn't really start as its own car. Back in 1965, Chevrolet already had the famous Impala, and it was dominating. It was one of the best-selling cars in America. But GM wasn't just looking at their own numbers, they were watching everybody else. Ford had the LTD, Plymouth had the VIP. Even Chrysler was starting to push their full-size cars a little more upscale. Hey, by the way, let's do a quick survey. The Ford LTD or the Chevy Caprice? Which one would you take? Leave your comments below. So GM, well, they made a decision that changed everything. Instead of building a brand new car, they upgraded what they already had. That's where the Caprice came in.
Chevrolet, the beautiful shape for 1965.
For about $200 more, you could get a heavier frame, a smoother ride, better insulation, and a nicer interior. It didn't scream luxury, but it felt like it. People noticed, and more importantly, they liked it. So much so that by 1966, GM made it official. The Caprice, it became its own model and the top of Chevrolet's lineup.
Beauty, elegance, luxury make up the 1966 Caprice by Chevrolet.
And the car was big, about 216 inches long, 5,486 millimeters, nearly 80 inches wide, 2,030 millimeters. And under the hood, everything from, small V8s to big block engines like the 454 7.4 liter. Now, Chevrolet had something that could compete directly with the Ford LTD and win. Now, here's what happened next. The competition, it didn't slow down, right? Ford kept pushing the LTD. Chrysler kept building bigger, softer cars. And GM, they pushed right along with them. By the early 1970s, this became a full-on size war. The Chevy Caprice grew to over 222 inches long, that's 5,640 millimeters, with the wheelbase past 121 inches. It weighed close to 4,300 pounds, and at the time, that was exactly what buyers wanted. More space, more comfort, more presence. Inside the car, it felt like a living room. Outside, it felt like you owned the road. And compared to the competition, the Caprice, it held its own. Then 1973 hit, and everything changed. Gas prices, they jumped. Fuel economy suddenly mattered. And all of those cars, the Caprice, the LTD, the big Chryslers, they suddenly had the same issues. They were too big. And now, buyers started looking for something different. Now, this is where things could have gone wrong because every company at the time had the same problem. And, GM, they made a move that really set the tone for everyone else.
See what's new today.
Stare hard at this new Chevrolet Caprice coupe, and you'll see something most unusual. Full-size, grown-up human beings riding comfortably in the back seat with ample legroom.
In 1977, they downsized the Caprice, shorter by over 10 inches, lighter by up to 600 or 700 pounds. That's 270 to 320 kilograms. But here's the key, they didn't make it worse. They actually made it better. More usable space inside, better fuel economy, and easier to drive. Fuel economy, it improved to 17 miles per gallon city or 22 miles per gallon highway, that's 10.7 liters per 100 kilometers. And compared to the competitors like the downsized LTD, the Caprice was right there or better. People responded immediately. Over 600,000 units sold in a single year. It was Motor Trend's Car of the Year. That decision, well, it didn't just save the Caprice, it kept Chevrolet ahead of the competition.
Chevrolet, taking charge.
Chevrolet Caprice Classic.
Now, this is the era most people remember. It was the late 1970s into the 1980s. For me, I can remember it vividly. The Caprice wasn't just competing anymore. It was everywhere. Families drove them. Taxi companies depended on them. And, the police departments trusted in them. And compared to the competitors, that's where the Caprice really pulled ahead. You know, Ford had the LTD Crown Victoria, Dodge had the Diplomat, but the Caprice built a better reputation. Reliable, simple, and tough. 6 passengers easy, 8 with the wagon. Big trunk, too. 20 cubic feet, or 0.56 cubic meters. Engines were simple and proven. The 5.0 liter, the 5.7 350, and other V6 options. Even diesel for fuel savings came around with 30 miles per gallon highway, or 7.8 liters per 100 kilometers. And then came the biggest advantage of all, police use. Departments across the country chose the Caprice over its competitors because it worked. By the 1990s, millions sold. At this point, the Caprice wasn't just competing, it had become the standard. I mean, really, they were everywhere. And this is where things go a little sideways.
Time was when everyone knew what a full-size car was. But times change, and people change.
In 1991, they redesigned the Caprice, and it didn't look like anything else on the road. Rounded, smooth, different, too different. Meanwhile, Ford kept the Crown Victoria looking familiar. And that mattered, because buyers trust what they recognize. The Caprice? Well, people didn't really recognize it anymore. Sales dropped. GM tried to fight back. You know, they brought out the Impala SS. Performance was back, though, with the SS, the LT1 V8, better suspension, strong brakes, 0 to 60 in about 7 seconds. Well, people loved it, but it wasn't enough. By then, the competition wasn't just other sedans anymore. It was SUVs and minivans. And everything changed. So by 1996, GM made a decision. It was the end. It wasn't really about the Caprice, it was about the market. Meanwhile, competitors like the Crown Victoria held on longer, but even those would eventually fade out because the whole segment was disappearing. Years later, the Caprice name did come back, but only for police. And by 2017, that was it. You know, the Caprice was never the car you bragged about. It was the one that showed up every day, did its job. And maybe that's why when it disappeared, people didn't notice right away. But once they did, they realized there was never really another car like it. Hey, that wraps it up on the Chevrolet Caprice. You know, from its inception as the, higher model of the Impala to, police cars and those station wagons. My dad owned a Caprice station wagon back in the 80s. Nice car. I think the one that I remember most was our 68 Chevy Bel Air, truth be told. But did you own a Caprice, a Chevrolet Caprice? If you did, Leave it in the comments below. Hey, and we have that survey, LTD or Chevrolet Caprice. Which one would you take? Leave it in the comments. Hey, like the video and subscribe to the channel. This is Michael J. with This Old Car. We will catch you again next weekend.